viewers, you are welcome. Let's talk about is a real understanding of social issues that bothers us as Christians. You are welcome to this week's edition. This week we'll be handling mental health, and to help us do this, we have with us Dr. Emanuela Eje, a medical officer from Pantine Hospital, and Mr. Kweku Kumson, a mental health nurse and an addiction specialist, also from Pantine Hospital. I am Dr. Rene DC, and I'll be your host for this evening. I would like to remind viewers that we are streaming live on our social media platforms, Trinity United Church Legon, on both YouTube and Facebook. You can send your comments and questions to the comment section on our social media platforms or to our WhatsApp number 050-157-9996. I'll take it again, 050-157-9996. Thank you very much. Mental health is a very important part of our human health. It has been an area that is very difficult to talk about, and today we want to unravel some of the myths and the mysteries surrounding it and help us to break some of the understandings that we have about it. We hope that by the end of this session, we all would understand mental health well and know that there's nothing to be ashamed of when it comes to mental health. In 1992, the World Health Organization instituted World Mental Health Day for every 10th October. And since the passing of the Mental Health Bill in Ghana in May 31st, 2012, Mental Health Authority, which came into being as a result of that bill, also celebrates this World Mental Health Day on 10th October every year. And every year on that day, they have press releases to give statements on mental health and how to go about it. Because of the stigma that's associated with mental health, people who have mental health illnesses find it difficult to even come out and let us know their problems and to get any help where they can. So today we are going to talk about it, and our panelists here will help us understand it better and help us to be able to remove all our myths around it. Thank you very much. You are welcome, Emanuela and Kweku.
Thank you very much.
To begin, can you tell us something about mental health? What is mental health? If somebody wants to understand what it is, what is it?
Okay, so with the definition of mental health, so the World Health Organization actually defines mental health as a state of well-being where an individual, so there are 4 components of it. So first of all, you should realize your full potential. You should be able to cope with the normal stresses of life. You should be able to work productively and fruitfully. And then lastly, you should be able to contribute to society. So all this comes together and defines what mental health is. So that's how it has been defined.
Kweku, can you tell us the importance of mental health in our society? Let's look at it in the perspective of children, adolescents, and also in our social life, day-to-day living, church, school, work, friends, all of that. Can you give us a brief view of how mental health impacts through all these cadres that we've spoken about?
All right, thank you very much. When you talk of society, society is made of people, and the people build society. Mental health is our ability to know our full potentials. So when you know your full potentials and you contribute positively to your society, you are being mentally healthy. So when we don't take mental health serious, the children, the adolescents, the youth, who will build this society, this environment for us, will not be there to build it. When mental health is not taken serious, people will not go to school, will not get jobs, so people will not even be employed. Drivers will be insane. So imagine if all drivers on the street are insane. Who will drive who will pass where? So I will not be able to build our community. So the community will be unsafe for everybody. There will be drug addiction here and there. There will be madness. You can't go out. You, the only healthy person in the environment, cannot go out. So this helps us to put our environment in check, helps us to build a nation, and helps us to also check on each other. You meet people on the street and you're able to talk to them because they're mentally healthy, because they can understand you. But when you meet people and they are not, you've seen people who walk around the gutters carrying things. Do you talk to them?
No.
So you can't build a community when the people in the community are not mentally sound.
Thank you. So in a nutshell, if I'm to understand you, want us viewers to know that mental health is a universal phenomenon.
Exactly.
And it cuts across every cadre and every age bracket.
Everywhere. So mothers are encouraged to pay attention to their children. We are encouraged to pay attention to our fellow siblings, to our neighborhood neighbors in our neighborhood. Because when we don't take mental health serious, we are in a church, so let me say this. Somebody stabbed the pastor in church because the people did not take mental health serious. You'll be walking around, somebody will meet, oh, hello, good morning. The hand comes up, it is coming down with a knife. So it's something we just have to pay too much attention to.
Having said that, can we deduce that then there can be mental illnesses that will cause people to act in not so normal way? Can we deduce that from what you have said?
Yes, please.
Can you give us a broad overview of what mental illnesses are?
Okay, so when we talk of mental illness, it's a disturbance in an individual's thoughts. And this disturbance in thought will affect how you care for yourself, how you relate with people, how productive you are in your environment, how you even talk, how you perceive things. So this disturbance in thought changes how the individual sees everything around them, sees themselves, and sees the world. And the individual becomes difficult to live with because they start acting, quote unquote, abnormal. What we normally do, they are not doing it. They are doing something else, and it becomes difficult for all of us.
Emanuela, do you want to add something to it?
Yeah, so what I wanted to add was with the question about it's involving all, so from children to the elderly, because these are the vulnerable people in society. So mental health especially, it's not really looked at, mental illnesses are not looked at like this can affect children and can affect the elderly. It's more looked at as for the adults, the working population. But then as we said, it cuts across from infancy, 2-year-olds to all the way up to 60, 70, 90-year-olds. Mental illness, it's a very broad, it affects everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Emanuela. Can you also give us your broad overview of what mental illness is?
Okay, so with to add up to what my colleague here has said, so with mental illnesses, we focus on, as I said, we focus on the emotional disturbances, we focus on how productive you are, and then we focus on the abnormality of your relationship with other people. So if you have someone around you and you notice certain, all of a sudden the person is isolating themselves, little things that's not how he usually relates to you, or instead of the person that has been a shy person, all of a sudden the person is over familiar, he's always coming to you. So that's why we characterize mental illness, it's a delicate subject. There are little things that suggest to other people that a person might be ill. So it's very evolving actually.
So having said that, I got from your answer that you started giving us certain signs and certain symptoms of what mental illness is. Can you make it elaborate a bit?
Okay, so with the signs and symptoms of mental illness, so as I was saying, some of them are very overt. Everyone can see them. Some of them, luckily, we have something in psychiatry we call insight. Some people are able to recognize that there is something wrong in my thinking thoughts, there is in my pattern, there is something wrong with the way I relate to another person, so I need help. And then, so I give examples like the isolating other themselves. Those are overt things. I think generally people have a perception that when we talk about mental illness, we are talking about the people who are walking on the streets, they are picking rubbish up and down. Those are a part of like some of the signs and symptoms, but that is not all. Some of them, you can be sitting down and you notice someone laughing to themselves, nothing is happening, and the person is laughing to him or herself. You should be worried. Or you notice that the person is neglecting their hygiene. So previously, the person likes dressing nicely, you iron his clothes, look sharp. All of a sudden, he's wearing crumpled clothing to work. To someone, that is not like an obvious sign of mental illness, but you should be worried because this is an abnormal behavior for that particular person. There are also certain signs like talking to themselves, talking excessively. Then we have the common ones where they become physically aggressive. Then you see people rushing to bring them to mental facility, but if not, they think everything is fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are lots of signs. I don't know if Kweku would like to add
Yes,
up.
please,
Yes.
Kweku, add your
When we
thoughts.
talk of mental illness, the signs, she's mentioned a lot. But there is something we should know. The signs of mental illness are culture sensitive and age related.
Okay.
For instance, if a 5-year-old kid gets up and just walks straight to the roadside and start peeing, everybody is okay with it because a 5-year-old kid. But imagine a 54-year-old man walks out of his office, comes straight in front of the office and then does his business. So the age of the individual will also account when the person is doing the signs. And the culture of the people. I am in Ghana. There are things we do in Ghana. If you go and do those things in China, we kill cats and birds and eat. You can't do that in London. Police better. So these things, there are certain things that we've done it and we culturally accept it that this is how we are. But when people deviate from that, we look at the person's age and then the kind of actions they are doing, then we can say the individual is. But then this also boils down to us. Some of us, when other people are doing things, we say it. But when our people are doing something, we never see. So we should be objective in how we view things.
Yeah.
Else we end up calling people, you have a problem. Meanwhile, we have the problem.
Thank you very much, Kweku. So from what the two of you have said, it means that with the overt signs, everybody can see. Like everybody sees you laughing. There's the story of an old man who will use one bar of soap, wash his hand until the bar of soap is finished. He's not stopping. So it is said that everybody has a bit of mental health issues, but obviously when it goes overboard, then you need the special eye of the psychiatrist to be able to identify them. So also, Dr. Emanuela mentioned that mental health illnesses are not just based on or just limited to schizophrenia, as in those walking on the streets. You know that certain diseases come under mental health. For many people out there, when you mention mental health, then it means you have gone naked, you are walking by the street, picking rubbish and eating from the dumpsters. So can you give us certain diseases, the disease categories or range that fall under mental health, so that we can educate some people to know that it goes beyond
Some of the common ones, because as I said, mental illness is broad.
It's broad.
So you've already mentioned schizophrenia. Another very common mental illness is depression.
Okay.
Because as we all know, depression has brought about a lot of increase in suicidal rates currently. So depression too it's a mental illness. You are sitting in your room, you have certain signs and symptoms such as like you are things that you used to find pleasure in, you've realized that you don't enjoy them as much as you used to. The amount of energy that you used to have has probably reduced. You are sleeping a lot or you're sleeping less. Sometimes all these things like are actually mental illnesses, but then people don't think it's also a mental illness that they need to see someone, they need to seek professional help for it. Then we also have certain illnesses like the bipolar disorder, where we have people that's borderline on the two extremes, where we have mania and then depression. So I've already explained what depression is, but with the manic symptoms, so I don't know whether we could use the example of people. Sometimes people claim that people brag and they talk a lot about certain things. You might not even know that the person is manic talking to you, because manic people tend to have this grandiosity. They believe they are on top of the world, because as I said, you're on the happy extreme. You are high. You are just, everything is the world. You own the world. Everything is going your way. So that's the manic symptom. So with bipolar disorder, you might have someone, they are dashing money to everybody they see on the streets. They are over generous. That is the word. They are over generous and they are overspending. And it's like, oh, this guy, he likes giving money out. He likes doing this. You are not even aware the person is manic walking around. Then I also like to talk about the elderly, because a lot of the time when they grow old, they are really abandoned. And the commonest mental illness that the elderly suffer from is Alzheimer's and dementia. So you have these old people, you see them regressing. It's like they've lost their memory. They are forgetting where they've placed certain things. They are peeing on themselves. They are basically regressing to the childlike state they used to be. They can't feed themselves. They can't bath themselves. Then you see family members abandoning them. It's a mental illness. It needs to be seen professionally. Then sometimes you also have personality disorders, like the example you mentioned about the man using the one bar of soap to wash. So this is something that a lot of people, you see people that I have OCD because you like arranging your things in a particular way. I have OCD. But then OCD is actually, it's a very debilitating condition. It's very severe because, as you said, the man is using one bar of soap because in his mind, he has a compulsion to keep washing until his hands are clean. But then all these, so these are the common ones. There are lots more, but then these are the ones I wanted to really focus on. Depression, bipolar disorder, Alzheimer's, and then dementia, and then to also talk about the OCD.
Yes, please.
Okay,
Cool,
so
cool.
since I work with people with addiction, we have those that are induced by substances. So people drink alcohol and then the alcohol gets too much for them and they start misbehaving and doing things they're not supposed to do. Some people are taking hard substances like weed, cocaine, heroin, ecstasy. Some are taking meth, and now people are mixing dog poop with parazone, and they are adding some acid to it.
Wow.
People are just doing anything to get high, and then they just want to be happy. And as they do this, some of them end up, it affects their mindset, it affects their lifestyle. And you see them, and there are some people when you see, you can tell clearly that this person is on drugs because of how they present themselves. So it then affects their lifestyle, affects their mindset, affects how they relate to people, even affects how they understand people. There are some people you can't talk to them. So these are some of the common ones that we have around.
So I believe this is being very instructive and very educational for viewers, for us to remember and know that mental health illnesses range. There's a very wide range of it. We've spoken about depression, schizophrenia, we've spoken about bipolar, we've spoken about addictions. Some of our parents get depressed and then some call them witches. Some begin to get Alzheimer's and dementia and then we call them witches. So she just says something, she's saying that she didn't say it. So we hope that by these, we'll be able to pick some of these things and be able to act on them for the people to get the right care that they need. Because mental health, like we have said, is universal and can happen to anybody. Again, like we spoke about, he says some are caused by or induced by addictions or getting addicted to certain substances. Can we speak about some of the things that expose people to mental health illnesses? First of all, is it inherited? Is it inherited? Is it something that you acquire as you are here? What are some of the things that will predispose you or cause mental health diseases? Yes.
Okay, so with this particular factors, we call them predisposing factors. So the most commonly studied ones are genetics, which is where you have, if a family relative has a mental illness, like a direct family relative, it increases your chances, especially when it comes to certain conditions like schizophrenia. You are interested in knowing if a brother, an uncle, a mother, father, like someone had that illness, and then it puts you at a higher risk of getting it. But then that doesn't rule out the fact that there are other common factors that can predispose you. For instance, birth.
Okay.
So if you are born and then there's some trauma, there's some sort of
asphyxia.
Yes, aphasia. So with that, growing up, you might notice some like retardation in the learning, intellectual ability of the child. So, way wabong, he can't do simple maths, he can't do this thing. He has actually had a mental illness from a traumatic birth injury. So he has acquired that mental illness. Then we have certain infections. So that's why we are very particular about our pregnant women, them coming for ANC, so that certain infections that could be passed on to the child that could actually later on predispose them to getting a mental illness, at least we are being like managed for them. So with the hepatitis, HIV, all these things can predispose someone to getting a mental illness. You also have things like head injuries. So head injuries too can predispose you to getting a lot of mental illness. So for instance, you are riding helmetless, which is a thing that is very common now. People are on their motorbikes. You get a head injury right now, the chances of you having a mental illness later on is very high. You can come back with a seizure disorder you never know. So those things are really, really common. It can predispose you to getting
Mental
it.
health. Kweku, would you like to add something?
Let's go to the next one.
Okay. I want to remind viewers again that we are streaming live on our social media platforms, Trinity United Church Legon, on both YouTube and Facebook. You can also send your comments and questions to the comment section of our social media platforms or our WhatsApp number 050 157 9996. Thank you very much.
Please, she mentioned pregnant women. But then there's something we should also tell our husbands. The husbands are supposed to keep these pregnant women safe. Some of them, they let the women do all the work in the house. They literally do everything. When they come back at home, some of them also abuse them. These things induce pressure. And when they induce the pressure, they are not able to, like, their body is not able to rest well to even get the baby to develop well. So then you have these children, and these children will also come and be your headache. Now you end up spending so much time trying to take care of these children, all because you didn't care for their mother. So our husbands should also be more attentive to our mothers when they are pregnant. We should, at least, we should do some of the work.
Okay.
Reduce the burden at home.
I'm sure you are every woman's favorite man right now. Thank you very much, Kweku. So let's discuss a few things that we think, a few areas in mental health that we think are neglected. Are there any neglected areas, especially let's come home into Ghana, which areas do you think are neglected that we need to do a little bit more work so that people will be more aware of that area in mental health?
To answer this question, we've neglected mental health as a whole in this country. Even from Parliament, when they are reading budgets, you get to know that mental health is not part of the countries. A country with a poor mental health, everybody is a junkie, everybody is sick. Then where do we go from here? Now, there's economic madness going around. Everybody is hot. You talk to somebody, they don't understand because you're not talking money. So from Parliament, from stakeholders who make laws, they have neglected mental health. Some of them, when their relatives have this problem, they fly them to other countries, South Africa and London, for healthcare. Some of them will call the top guys to come and take care of them at home. So we should start by enforcing these institutions. Let people appreciate that mental health is not something we should stigmatize. I worked in 5 different places. So when I was in Brongahafo, because I'm a mental health nurse, the people called me by name Abadam. That was how they called me. They called me Abadam. So even clients don't want to be seen with you, because when the clients are seen with you, you're from Abadam. Into me, who am I? People will start, and then people will treat you differently. So our perception about mental health as something in the backyard should change. We have been hardwired to think that when somebody goes to Kolebu or so, they are going for proper medical care. We have been hardwired to think that way. You can have all the money, but when your mind is not there, you can't spend your money. You can have all the degrees, but when your mind is gone, you can't use the degrees. You can have all the accolades, but without your mind, you can't use it. So we have to, from the word go, even those who make policies should make mental health an integral part. Mental health is not mentioned in any primary school. It's not mentioned in any junior high school. Some senior high schools, they don't even hear about it until somebody suffers it. But they hear of all the things. They hear of the pornographies, the STDs, the condoms and everything. Why can't we bring this one too? I'm getting emotional, forgive me. Forgive me.
Dr. J, I hope, do you agree with KK here?
I agree with KK here, because it's really bad how neglected, even if you come to a facility like this, the way some patients are even shy to come for reviews because, oh, when I'm coming, the people in the area, almost friend me, almost say my bottom, but I'm say me bottom. The point is, it's an illness. The same way when you have malaria, you have fever, you go to the hospital and you are treated for it. It's the same way they come and they receive treatment and they're able to function. But then the stigma attached to it affects these people, and then instead of you helping us get them better, you end up retarding the progress. But then another area that I feel is really neglected in this country is the effects of stress on our mental illness and how it is managed. Because I think as Ghanaians particularly, we've hardwired ourselves that if you are not suffering, you are not working hard. That is how we measure our progress. If you're a student and you are not stressed out learning, because look at the KNUST medical students that attempted suicide. If you go down to the root cause, it could have started from stress, led to depression, then he eventually progressed to suicidal ideation. The whole point is stress, and then it is not managed out. It's very, very neglected. People neglect that part that, oh, I'm stressed out, but I'll still go to work. Or it's high time that we institute like a mental health day, where at least one person, you can take a day out of the week to rest, like no work pressure, just relax, get something you enjoy doing, or you take that time to talk to someone that you are really close to at least pour out your emotions to help you feel better, because a lot of people are neglecting that part of their mental health. Stress is a very, very big part.
Couldn't agree with you more, because now within the working class we are hearing a lot of suicide cases that are coming up within the working class, and I'm sure most of them can be linked to stress and burnout. Where people come to work, they don't even feel like coming, but they still come. Nobody cares to ask them how they are doing mentally, because we see everybody walking around fit, supposedly fit. But our panelists have made us understand that, like WHO says, there is no health without mental health. Globally, about 1 in 4 people suffer mental health disease. And recently, WHO released a document that about 2.4 million Ghanaians may be suffering from mental health illness. So these are very, very important. How do you presume we should deal with some of these, especially the stress and the burnout? What do you think can be done? What advice are we giving to institutions and even the individuals on what to do or how to manage this issue of stress and burnout?
Okay, so to start with, sometimes stress and burnout, you actually have physical symptoms, and then you have cognitive symptoms. So you could have some physical symptoms like stomach upsets, loss of appetite, headaches, cognitive symptoms like a reduction in your concentration. You have difficulty concentrating. So to deal with these things, sometimes something as simple as eating well, eat a lot of fruits, vegetables, you're improving your mental health. Get someone that you talk to, find a hobby, something that gives you pleasure, and do it at least once a week. Listen to music, take relaxing walks, spend time with your family, build a whole relationship. All these things can help reduce your stress and help you cope effectively with burnout and other situations.
KK, would you add something?
My grandma used to tell me charity begins at home. Most of us, our lifestyle at home, even the parents, some of them challenge their children into competition. So from the word go, from primary school to working age, the child has been hardwired that competition is the only way. I must be seen on top. Because I must be seen on top, whether I like it or not, whether I can do it or not, I have to do it. So you see one child doing 6, 7 things. Meanwhile, his strength can do 3. But because everything has been a competition around him, they will then start to add up more, and then it will cause a breakdown. So from home, parents should learn to encourage their children to take a break, to know their limits. There is this thing we do when you come to the hospital. We do limits, where you get to know your limit, how far you can go, how deep you can try something. So most of us, we need to know our limits and then know how we relate to people from work. And then the HRs and work managers also learn to talk to their staff, give them a break. At least it won't break. The work will not finish.
Yes, the work will not finish. HRs and other people in management, give your staff a break so that they will be mentally healthy and be more productive instead of breaking them down mentally. Thank you very much, viewers. We'll go for a short break and be back soon.
This is GKB Foods, a community-based zero-waste agro-processing company focused on the coconut value chain. It came about as a result of the health condition of the owner. So I was diagnosed with diabetes, and a friend introduced me to coconut oil as a food supplement to help stabilize my sugars. So after a couple of months taking the oil, I realized that yes, there was a significant change in my sugars, which caused me to look more into the coconut oil as a food supplement. Our product is basically the coconut oil and then coconut powder, coconut shell charcoal. We are looking into other new products, including coconut snacks. Basically, we use the cold press methodology. So at no point do we add heat or any additive for that matter. So it's just pure coconut oil squeezed out of the coconut meat. We currently can do about 25,000 nuts a day. So 30,000 liters of coconut oil in a month.
With the growing challenges of life in light of both global and domestic development, the Christian is faced with the difficult task of balancing survival within a secular system and at the same time living a Christian life that pleases their Maker. It is for this reason that we need to have frank conversations on the many issues of life through the Christian lens. So, we bring to you Let's Talk About. On Let's Talk About, we talk about health, career, dating, marriage, family, divorce, politics, finance, and all the issues of life that the Christian is confronted with on a daily basis. Join us this and every Wednesday on the YouTube and Facebook pages of Trinity United Church Legon, and let's talk about life as Christians.
Are doing a very good job at educating us on mental health and how to break the stigma and the myths surrounding it. Don't forget to send your comments and your questions to our social media handles, Trinity United Church Lagos, on both Facebook and YouTube. You could also send your questions to our WhatsApp numbers, number 050 157 9996. 050 157 9996. Again, discussing mental health issues with us are Dr. Emanuela Eje, a medical officer from Pantine Hospital, and Mr. Kweku Kumson, a mental health nurse and an addiction specialist, also from Pantine Hospital. Welcome again.
Thank you.
So, to go ahead, can we discuss, let's do a bit more of positive discussions. So, tell us a bit about what you term a good mental health.
Okay. So if you remember from the beginning, we said mental health is knowing your ability and contributing to society. So a good mental health, an individual should be able to contribute to society. Contribute positively, not stealing and taking people's things. No,
Yes.
that is not contributing. You should contribute positively to society. There are some people that people use as examples to people.
Okay.
Those people are living a lifestyle. So you should be a good example in your society. And then you should do things to your ability. I know I can carry a plastic chair. I'll go and carry one. But when you know you can carry 7 and you go and carry 28, you are not doing what you can do. And the men, actually, we try to build more pressure. We see beautiful ladies and we end up saying things we are not supposed to say, promising things we are not supposed to promise. Somebody will come home and eat gari, and then he will go and buy food somewhere and go and give it to somebody. That is not a healthy lifestyle. So a good mental health is knowing your ability, loving yourself. Even the Bible says, you can't love people when you don't love yourself. So you need to love yourself, and you can love people equally. So we should be able to appreciate our strength, what we can do, and then make sure whatever we do contribute to what society has, and then we build it up. That is a good mental health lifestyle.
Great.
It's a good life, so we should live it.
That's awesome. Dr. J, what are some of the things you think would contribute to a good mental health status? A good mental health status.
So to go off the stress point, taking regular breaks.
Okay.
It's necessary.
I
Some
see
people-
that is very important
It's
to
very,
you.
very important, because I feel at the root of a lot of mental illnesses, a lot of the time when they come, they've been stressed out at work, they've been burnt out, they are looking for solutions and it's not working, and it just ends up tipping them over. So taking regular breaks is very, very important. Establishing a good relationship with, like, you just need one person you can trust to talk about your feelings with them. Because as we spoke about, the definition for it is you're supposed to be able to cope with the normal stresses of life. If you are coping with the normal stresses of life and you are not sharing these stresses with other people, how do you expect to be able to cope with them? You have to have someone to talk to. So to have this, you have to have a confidant, someone you can share your problems with. Then also eating well. The eating well, it's a main thing, because most of our clients, when they come, first thing will ask you, are you eating well? Are you sleeping well? So it brings us to the next point. Rest enough. Sleep. Try to get as much rest as possible. Okay, it's not all about work and you have so much. You have to rest. You also should, things that you used to find pleasure in. I've realized that as people grow older, the things that, something as simple as playing football or watching a football game tend to be discarded. They now focus on like general things. They don't even do things that bring them pleasure anymore. Coming to church, some people like singing, coming to church, joining the choir singing, they don't even have time for them, because as I said, there's stresses of life. You should be able to cope with them. All these are good coping mechanisms that help push you to having a good mental health. So yeah, those are the main ones.
KK, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, we should be good neighbors. We should be good neighbors. Somebody died in where I lived in the estate. The person died for 3 weeks. So it was the smell that got, like, attracted people that somebody's dead here. We are neighbors. Like, my house is here, the next building is his neighbor, is his house. Nobody knew until the person complained, is something dead in your house? We were like, no, nothing is dead here. We're all asking. And then somebody said, no, we should check on it, because they haven't seen it for a while. We called police, they broke the door. The person is there. We should be good neighbors. We are also supposed to share our problems with people, but we're also supposed to listen to people's problem. But one thing about us, when we hear your problem, I have a best friend. So I'll go and tell your problem to my best friend, who will also tell it to her best friend. So before you know, your problem has gotten to Kaswa. Meanwhile, you shared it at Trinity. So when we hear people's problems, we should keep our mouth shut. We can feel for them, but not go and sell them. So we should be good neighbors. It's a sign of good mental health living, good mental health status. There are some people you will never talk to. Most of us, we have people in our life. We will never discuss anything personal with them because we know them. What can we tomorrow, hey, you did this, and today I'm doing this, and you are saying it. So we should just be good neighbors. We should learn to.
I think it's a very important, valid, and Christian point. Let's be very good neighbors. Let's be the good neighbor that Jesus spoke about, and not live in isolation. No man is an island, as is said. So we should be the good neighbor to our next neighbor. So with having said this, what are some of the resources that we have available? You work in a mental health institution. So like you said, KK, so many people probably are not getting confidence because they are afraid their stories will end up on the streets or where they don't even expect it to be. And since you cannot tell the thoughts in anybody's head, what are some of the structures or some of the resources that are available here in Ghana to ensure accessibility and then friendliness of these kind of resources for people to be able to come to and not have to go to an individual to go and tell their or sell their stories?
Okay. Well, the Mental Health Authority and Pantan Hospital both have instituted a toll-free line where people with problems call. You call, they easily refer you to an institution. I work in Pantan Hospital. When people come to Pantan Hospital, we have a psychotherapy unit where you can get to talk to somebody, a neutral person you don't know, who will not share your problem with people to mock you, but then will listen to you, encourage you, and if there is any therapy needed, the therapy is planned with you. So the therapy is a self-paced therapy. I can't plan therapy for you the way I want it to go. How do you want it? How many times can you come? Will this day be okay for you? Shall we do this? Can you do this? So we do individual-based therapy. So people shouldn't be shy going to a hospital or calling a toll-free line or asking for help. We encourage people to ask for help. So one thing we have in our country that I know of is that we have open doors to give help to people, but unfortunately, charges become a problem. Sikasam. So some people are also shy to come because he may not be able to pay for everything. But then the little you can pay will do you good.
Dr. J.
To add up to that, it's so that you don't feel it's only, a lot of the times when clients come to us, they feel like I have to travel all the way from a village somewhere to be able to get psychiatric assistance. We have community health nurses that have been placed, I think, in every district, every region. There are psychiatric nurses there that are also there for you. So even if you cannot get access to a big facility like Pantai or Accra Psychiatry, we have community mental health nurses. They come around, they visit people's homes, they interact with them. All these people are available. So if you at least try to know who in your vicinity is the community health nurse for that particular place, just go to the local hospital situated in your community, and you might get to know that, oh, you have your mental health nurse is this person, because all these people are professionals. You can trust them with your problems, you can confide in them. They will try their best to get you solutions. So these resources are available. It's not just doctors. We have like locally placed nurses to aid in giving people mental health.
Again, I also know that you can walk into the facilities and talk to a psychologist, a clinical psychologist. That service is not too expensive and is something that will be very rewarding for you. This again is somebody you do not know, and the person is bound by ethics and law not to reveal your story to anybody. So these are structures that are put in place for us to be able to assess good mental health care. So this year, WHO says mental health is a universal right, human right.
Yes.
Let's delve a bit into that. What's your take on it? And what do you think are challenges that faces or prevents people from accessing these rights? I know we've spoken about some of these, but then what's your take on it from the perspective of WHO's theme for this year's World Mental Health Day?
So, first of all, World Mental Health Day will be celebrated on the 10th of October. So, as she said, the theme for this year is mental health is a universal human right. So why it's being so focused on is that we've realized a lot of countries do not give priority to mental health. They do not seem to see the need in investing in it, like the way they think everyone has the right to education, everyone has the right to good water, to like freedom of speech, all those things. But then it's like the right to getting good mental health care is not really done. So the whole point is we're trying to establish the fact that everyone, everywhere, as she said, 1 in 4 people. So that means as we are sitting here in this room, there is one person or even 2 or 3 people that have mental illnesses. But then the resources being made available, because apart from the whole stigma part, the money, we have to be very honest, the cost involved in mental health it's expensive. It is expensive. And I think currently we are still trying to make efforts to include it in the National Health Insurance Scheme, because it's not even covered. You have people that have defaulted medications for months because they can't afford it. When they are coming, they have to pay to be reviewed. They have to pay for every service. And then it's not fair, because we have health insurance covering so much. So we are trying to like push the fact that you and I have a right to be mentally well.
Kiki, do you have something to say?
Oh yes, we should also encourage the people in our environment to also seek mental health. Sometimes I am not discouraging the fact that being religious is wrong. Being religious is perfect. In fact, one study I chanced on stated that people who are religious don't develop mental illness as fast as people who are not religious. Because with religion, we get people to talk to. We get people to check on us. Sometimes when people have problems and we go to church and we are praying about it, some of the problems also need professional attention. But then sometimes we abandon the people at prayer camps and then we don't push them to there because we want them to be here. Let's pray. but let's seek the professionals. So let's not prevent people from getting the help they need. It's their basic right. Let's encourage them. Let's make the avenues available. Thank you.
There's a comment by Madam Ruth Redu that says that that's why we have annual leaves, but some staff will not go on leave because of overtime, and it's common in her workplace. I think it is linked to stress.
Stress.
Yes. So
This is economic stress.
This is economic stress.
So the overtime will pay her. It's not her problem. The overtime will pay the person. So the person wants to do something to earn some more.
that's overtime.
Yes.
You see?
Okay.
So it's not their fault.
So there's a question by Daniel. He says, recently we saw on TV the so-called philanthropists baiting people who are considered to be having mental problems on the street. Is it a good or bad sign to adopt, is it a good thing or a bad thing to adopt such a thing in curbing the mental health menace?
Excuse me. They
were baiting them. So it's like those on the streets,
yeah,
they got them and then
clothe you and then they leave you to go.
Possibly. So you don't sort of,
you have defeated the whole purpose of what you were trying to achieve, because you're trying to help them maintain personal hygiene. But the whole thing about, I think I mentioned it, about how, especially in schizophrenics, they have a problem, so they neglect their personal hygiene, which is when you see them, if you do not try and get them medication, professional help, and you are bathing and you are feeding them, you let them go, they will go back, because the point is they have an illness. They do not even recognize, because you remember that the mind is what will tell you that you are sick. But then in this case, their mind can't even acknowledge the fact that there's something wrong with them. So they don't even know that they need to seek help for it. So if you want to do something so positive, do it to the fullest. But if you're bathing them, you haven't done much. You just made them clean temporarily. They will go back to their old state.
so that is just a temporary solution which doesn't solve it, because you are doing sort of symptomatic, you've taken just one symptom and try to address it. But then the cause of the illness itself is still there, so the person will just go back. There's another question by George Mesiedu, which says, how can the Christian maintain good mental health in marriage?
Wow. How can a Christian maintain good mental health in marriage? Okay, so there is this thing I learned from church. We don't just marry. We meet people, we see them, we understand ourselves. We know marriage is like a business. So if I can run it with you, we go. But I can't pick somebody who cannot run my business and then we just go. The person will go and torment you. So if there is any problem in marriage and then you think the problem is affecting your mental health, as a good Christian brother, all you can do is, before you go married, somebody cancelled you. So when problems are coming, you can confront yourselves. Sit down with each other. Oh, Adwa, I've observed A, B, C. It is not helping me. It is making me do A and D. Oh, Kweku, I've not seen this. Okay, thank you for alerting me. And then they will quickly, you can, but sometimes you talk about it and it doesn't work. You had a counselor before the marriage. Speak to the counselor. Speak to somebody who is closer to you. So maintaining good mental health in marriage, you can't talk about somebody's marriage because you don't know how the soup is boiling. But all I can encourage you is seek help. Confront each other. But then how we talk to each other is the most important thing. I can tell you go away and you comfortably go without saying anything. I can say the same word in a different manner. You throw the vase at me. So it depends on how you communicate with each other. And then you should learn to seek help. You are not a man. You can't handle everything. That is why God gave you a helper.
Okay. So KK is encouraging churches to strengthen post-marital counseling.
Yes.
Because if we believe that premarital counseling prepares people into marriage, there should be structures for post-marital counseling for when the problems arise, so that we can also run to these same institutions to help us, so that the marriage can be perpetuated. Do we have something else to say?
No.
Okay. There's another question by Enoch Nyako that says that the same way we have GDP as an indicator of economic growth, are there any metrics or indicators of mental wellness that we can track as a nation to help guide policy making? because often the subject of stress and burnout is a reflection of our economy. And if we don't prioritize it as a country, it will always sit on the back burner.
Okay.
Do you have indicators in mental health that guides policy?
Mostly annually. In fact, every quarter, the Mental Health Authority gathers data from all health institutions. And then this data is then submitted to the Ministry of Health. That helps in planning for the year. But in a country where we live in, we all know documentation in Ghana has gone back. We are still trailing 300 years. We are still trailing. People come to hospital. Let me just take you to a system so I can get your details. Oh, you know what? You come home and take care of me. No. So we should also allow people to take our details when we go to hospital. So yes, there are things being done, but then it is not something that is actually changing policy, because in Ghana, the policies are more about when to win the next power, who is going to sit in the next chair. So we have a long way to go.
Yes, so Enoch, again, in health, I think we use more of incidences and prevalences to be able to forecast. And then like Keke has said, documentation is a problem, and to compound it, mental health illnesses are not even reported in the facilities. People don't even want to come. So even those that have been reported, the incidences and the prevalences we have are believed to be just the tip of the iceberg, because majority of people end up, like he said, at the herbalist place, sometimes in the spiritual camps, and other places that really do not have that documentation structure. So there are incidences that are used for forecasting, but it is woefully inadequate. Madam Ruth Redu again asked that, Doc, is it good to carry leftover work home?
No. I feel like everybody knows that there are particular times you're supposed to go to work and when you're supposed to close. I think that's when we talk about establishing healthy boundaries, which is something a lot of people have problems with. You have to be able to establish boundaries at work, that at this point in time, I have closed. I am done for the day. This is my time to relax, release the stress of the day. Why are you carrying work home? You see, all this is adding to the stress and the burnout. We are not making enough time for ourselves to recuperate before we go back to deal with the next day's stress again. That's why you go to work 9 to 5 or you go to work 8 to 4. There's a particular time. When you close, you close. Leave it over there. Boundaries have to be established. Healthy boundaries
have to be established. Healthy boundaries have to be established. Again, I think many people use some of these to cover up on other stresses. So instead of finding an avenue where we can release our stress, like maybe exercising, we feel too lazy, or doing something else, then rather we'll bury ourselves in work. Then we don't have to do that. At least that covers up certain stresses. Yes.
And also, after we set the healthy boundaries, there is something we can check on the internet. It's called interest checklist. So you just check on the internet, you download it, you look through. There are lots of activities. Which one can help me? Which one can I try? Then you build an interest, a hobby. You build something that you can be doing when you are not buried in work or you are not soaked in family problems or what have you.
Okay. So there's a question by Daniel Osei. I think to understand it, he wants to know whether ancient methods of meditation helps mental health or are good for our mental health.
Well, studies have shown that there are some meditative techniques that have shown improvements. The state of calming your mind, going into this trance state where you don't have these daily stresses of life, economic, physical, work, all those different stresses have been shown to, because at that point you've gone lax. You're able to relax yourself, calm down, you are not overthinking. That means your heart is not beating fast for you to get some high blood pressure or something. It is able to just be calm. So meditation has been shown, even though it's not something, it's more of a Western thing than really in our African.
Maybe Daniel reads wide.
Right, yes, but it's more of a Western avenue. But then, yeah, it's encouraged, because I have certain clients who have found meditation to be good for them. Some people find yoga to be, because as they are exercising, they are using that as a meditative sort of thing. It helps improve them So it's a good thing. It's still
Great.
coming. It's working in Ghana, small.
Great. Daniel, I hope we answered your question. So on the 10th of September, again, globally, we celebrated or we launched World Suicide Prevention Day. And I know as an institution, you have taken it upon yourselves to embark on this mission. So can you tell us a bit about suicide, just a little bit? We have just a little time, a little bit about suicide and what we can do or how to prevent it, how you can even identify people with suicidal ideations, and then what you can do as an individual to be able to save somebody from committing suicide.
Okay, so because we don't have a lot of time, I really want to focus on certain signs that when you see, you should worry. So you have someone that seems to be isolating themselves. You notice that the person is talking a lot more about death. They seem to be giving away their property, their goods. They are just donating everything. They seem to be indulging in reckless activity. So they are driving at top speeds, they are drinking recklessly. All these things point to you that this person might have suicidal ideations. So you should be worried about them. He's not interacting with people the way he used to. He's always locked himself indoors. He doesn't want to come out. All these are signs of the person might be suicidal. So for this year, our theme for the World Suicide Day was creating hope through action. So with that one, we came up with certain steps that we want as a general person. You can get involved, some sort of first aid to give to people who might be suicidal. And some of these things we spoke about was, first of all, you should be willing to listen. The stigma, and then you have to put aside your prejudices about how, I know we're all Christians, and then the tendency to say things like, if you commit suicide, you go to hell. Don't do that. At that particular point in time, that's not what we are focusing on. So one of the main things you want to do when you are suspecting someone might be suicidal is you have to put aside your prejudices, be honest, be attentive to the person. We also want you to try as much as possible to contact someone the person trusts, or to contact a mental health institution or a health professional, and then to encourage the person to come to our facility. We also want we have something called a suicide plan. So that kind of plan, so you and the person that wants to commit suicide, so we can come together and say, maybe KK wants to commit suicide. KK, these are certain steps we can take. So the first step is we are going to get involved in an activity that doesn't stress you out, that doesn't take too much time. Then it's a step-by-step approach. It should be reasonable. It should be something that, let's take it one day at a time. Let's take it 1 week at a time. Not that we are looking at 5 years from now. So these are achievable goals that you outline for the person. Then you and the person agree that, what can you do? What can you not do? And most of the time in our society, a lot of the financial problems tend to push people to commit suicide. So things like, you can't solve the person's financial problems. It's unfortunate. You might want to do, but then don't try to take the person's problems onto yourself, because that's another thing. When people realize people are suicidal and they are depressed, they try to solve all their problems. No. All you are helping the person do is realize that there's someone else to manage the thing. So why do I need to get involved? The whole essence of you giving first aid is to draw the person in as much as possible, get the person involved in life again. So as I said, you have to put aside your prejudices. You have to put aside your religious beliefs. He's a Muslim, so I don't need to get involved because I'm a Christian brother. No, it's first aid you are giving the person. But just that it's not physical first aid.
Thank you, Dr. J. KK.
Okay, and then one thing too, when people start showing signs of suicide, when people start talking about that and all that, we should be observant. Some of them hold medications, so we should be observant. If you're close to the person, look through their items and all that. Find out things. Men mostly succeed at suicide than women because they use more lethal means. And every 40 seconds, one person attempts suicide in this world. Every 40 seconds. One person attempts it.
This is higher than malaria or
Fast,
HIV.
very
or
fast.
anything.
Every 40 seconds, somebody attempts it. So we should, when people talk to us, as I spoke about being a good neighbor, we should make time to listen. You're talking to somebody and the person's eyes are here, and then you're talking to me, I'm literally looking like, what? How does that help you? So we should be good listeners, and when we talk to people, we should give words of encouragement to people. Somebody just needs somebody to listen to them. They don't really need anything from you. They just want you to listen. So we should learn to listen to people. We should learn to encourage people. And we have a helpline. We have a national helpline and a helpline for the Pantan Hospital. So the national helpline is 0800 876 876. 0800 876 876. And the Pantan Hospital helpline is 0800 300 200. 0800 300 200. Somebody will answer your call. It's a toll-free line. You can stay on it 6 hours. Somebody will talk to you. Somebody will get to you. Thank you.
Thank you, KK. So we want to wrap up, and I want you to link your final comments to the mental health bill that was passed. We know that in Ghana we make a lot of laws, and we say that we don't follow them. Do you think that we've done justice? Because I know that there are lots of things in there that has not been harnessed, and things that have not actually come to fruition. So do you think we've done justice to the bill? And then as you do that, just give us your final comments about mental health and what you want to leave the public with, what you want the public to remember from this discussion.
Okay, so let me quickly tap on the bill. The bill was a good thing to help patients and family, but then some aspects were not fair to health workers because it kind of doesn't give so much room for allowances and things. So those ones should be looked at. And one thing too about the bill.
You have 10 seconds.
Okay, 10 seconds. One thing too about the bill. Most families are abusing it. They go to court and ask for a court order to bring somebody into the hospital. But when the hospital is ready to, the person is ready to be discharged, the court doesn't really show any interest in the thing. And during Christmas and Easter time, families are in a hurry to bring people to the hospital so they can clear the home for visitors. And they'll go to court and bring these people. And when they finish...
That's enough. Let's Dr. Emmanuel. Dr. Emmanuel.
I'm so sorry.
Yes, so with...
so what do you want to leave the public with?
I want to leave the public with the topic that's been on my heart, stress and then burnout. But then I would also like to, while talking about this stress and then burnout and then some of the activities that you can do, like exercise, we spoke about that. I'd like to invite them to the walk that Pantan Hospital will be having on Saturday, 14th of October. We would be taking a mental health walk. Please join us, 6 a.m. Okay.
Are you Mensato?
So
have
please.
A beautiful exercise, beautiful encounter.
Just come and release stress. Relieve yourself.
Thank you
there will be
very
item
much.
13.
There will be no item 13.
Thank you very much, panelists. Thank you, Dr. AJ. Thank you, KK, for a very insightful discussion. We are very, very grateful that you came. You've educated us, and we believe that everything you've taught us we will take. So viewers, this ends our discussion on mental health. We want to leave you with the fact that mental health is your right. Make sure you take care of your mental health as you do your physical health, so that you'll be healthy and more productive for our nation and for your neighbor as well. Thank you very much and have a good night.